Buongiorno! I want to talk to you about one of my personal biggest influences. I think it's no secret that one of the people who most inspires me is Miuccia Prada. The Miu Miu brand in particular, because it's always a bit daring, it's always a bit different. I may not like everything that Miuccia Prada does, but I certainly like her more because of the variety. There's more things about her than I like than, I won't say the other brands, but there are some brands that kind of, they stick to almost a formula, and it's a bit boring and I don't like them as much. But Miuccia Prada has always been a massive influence for me, maybe even an idol. And it's not just because of the fact, although it is very impressive, that she managed to take this family business and she expanded it into what is a multi-billion-dollar international company. And all through that, she still managed to always be different, to be daring, to be interesting. And as a result of that, I want to share with you some of the quotes of hers that really have left quite an impact on me. Because I think, for whatever reason, she's actually quite eloquent in the way that she speaks about not only fashion, but about creativity. There's some really great insights, and I want to share them with you today. Quote number 1. The moment you start being in love with what you're doing and you think it's beautiful or rich, then you're in danger. And I like this idea because it reminds me of how all my favorite artists evolve, like the Beatles never stayed in one place. Part of the reason is they were constantly challenging themselves and subverting themselves, and I think this is a very important lesson to take away. Quote number 2, usually my ideas come from what I don't want to do or what I think is too old. I think as creators, we always have this desire to sort of chase novelty and to do something that's new and fresh because we think, oh, that's a bit, not even necessarily cliche, but we're bored of things. And when you're bored of things, maybe you actually have to go back and look at it again and force yourself to find something new out of it. I think there's actually some practical advice in there for creatives, and that's something that I think I've failed to apply into my own creative process, but probably should more. This next one I really have failed to apply into my own creative process, and is more or less along the same train of thought, and I think it's really exciting. Quote number 3, to hate something is the origin of my work. It's more to hate something than things that I like. It's very easy for me to say what I hate, and then out of that I start working on a little path of what I could eventually like. Perhaps it's because, when we're looking for something, it's called, oh, I don't know what I like, I don't know what I want. But when you hate something, you can sort of carve a line over it. But I think there's also a bit of wisdom in that you're forcing yourself to kind of alchemically change something. And there's another quote that sort of riffs off this, to alchemically change something that at the moment you may not like, and then to turn it into something, to redefine it, reframe it, to explore it in a new light until it could become something that you like. In addition to sort of just being able to articulate, don't like that, what's left, okay, let's explore it. Challenging of your own senses and challenging what you find comfortable or what you like and forcing yourself into new ground. I think this is the essence of creativity, how you stop being boring, how you yourself stop being old. Quote number 4. I always want to do something different as a way to progress. At the beginning, I wanted to make a soft bag out of stiff leather. I wanted to make rich materials look poor and poor materials look rich. There was always something disturbing, and in the end, maybe that's why people like Prada. She's right. That's why I like Prada. Because of the way that she's managed to do these inversions. Now, as I said, I don't like everything she does, but I like the variety. There's some brands, I won't mention them because I want to work for them one day. I won't mention them, but there are some brands, they just kind of have standards and they keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And I'm excited by Prada because it's a little bit challenging. Number 5, I'm always interested in the thing that's not clear. Ambiguity is a quality, but it's a quality that not many people like. People like things that are very clear and simple, but the moment you become complicated or more subtle, then there comes an uneasiness. Again, the attraction of the Prada brand, and while it it may not appeal to everyone, but it appeals to people like me, and I assume people like you, if you're watching this video, you're somewhat simpatico to my ideas and to Miuccia Prada's ideas. The ambiguity, the promise of something different, that's exciting to us. As I said, creatives are probably too much. We kind of too much go towards the novelty and stuff. So the ambiguity, that little bit of risk, that we like to be challenged, we like to think, we like to have our minds stretched. I think that's perhaps, again, part of the attraction of the Prada brand. Quote number 6. I've no reason for continuity except for my own mental trip. Very often I start working on a subject that I never liked, mainly because what I used to like is too obvious for me. I always want to investigate fields that are not my typical ones. Quote number 7. When they ask me, Miuccia, how can I be elegant, well-dressed? She says to them, study! Study fashion, study movies, study art! And after that, study yourself. The people that we tend to like the style of most, the people who we think are the most interesting, the most enchanting to look at, usually are the people who have studied themselves, who there's something unique about their personality, and that's coming through. And finally, quote number 7, what I'm interested in is changing things without being too provocative or too political. Keep it on the fashion. The fact that she's managed to do that while still being so daring, while still being so interesting, and always not too political, I think that's, for me, a massive inspiration and really, in my own mental trip, where I would like to be going. And that is why I hold Miuccia Prada in such personal esteem. And that's why I wanted to share those quotes with you today. Until next time, study! And after you've studied it all, study yourself, because you're worth it. Buongiorno.